The Arizona Cardinals must finish strong to round out the 2024 NFL season, and momentum going from the end of this season into the offseason matters incredibly as opposed to last season. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner _. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Been a part of the small Arizona Cardinal sports radio family since 2011. Been hosting this podcast since 2017, going into the 8th season. Man, thank you for being a part of this chapter, not only my sports radio and podcast journey, but part of the Arizona Cardinals journey as well. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Today rounds out the final installment of the 6-show series, kind of just casting a spotlight on the 2024 season, game by game, segment by segment, kind of just prognosticating upon where the Cardinals are going to be, what will need to happen in specific game for Cardinals to win, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And with the last episode where it was the most winnable stretch for the Cardinals, this is going to be kind of the tail end of that. Plus, this is going to heed more weight than the end of the 2023 season, where it's kind of backwards. It was like, well, if the Cardinals win games, then they get a worse draft pick. They're not going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. But if they lose games, it's going to look worse, but they're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. It wasn't that difficult last year. The Cardinals needed to lose games at the end so they could get Marvin Harrison Jr., and they did. Thank you, Matt Prater. And they showed enough momentum with Kyler Murray coming back that it was enough to kind of thrust them onto a different ground floor, talent-wise and expectation-wise, going into this offseason, and it's matriculated as such. But this stint, regardless of what the record is, you expect the Cardinals not to be drafting top 5 unless some sort of catastrophic injury happens, which you never wish. These last 2 games specifically, week 17 against the Rams, which I'll discuss next segment, and week 18 at home against the 49ers, is really going to have weight, momentum that will last going into the offseason. I'll explain as we move on. But starting off week 16 against the Carolina Panthers, although improved, this needs to be a win for the Arizona Cardinals. Bryce Young, in my opinion, still isn't close to the guy. They've added a lot of pieces on the offensive line. They traded for Deontay Johnson. Adam Thielen's still there. They've added pieces. Okay. But it's still the Carolina Panthers, and they're still where the Cardinals were last year, this year, without the quarterback talent. New head coach, big deal. David Tepper doesn't seem to know what he's doing still, hitting the hard reset button multiple times. This is a game that the Cardinals need to take advantage of, going on the road against a team they should beat. Now, they haven't had the best success against the Carolina Panthers. The 2 games that I remember most, obviously, number one, the NFC Championship game, 2015. I know we're almost a decade away from that. But the second one was a couple years ago in Carolina in a game the Cardinals should have won, even though Budda Baker was out. Teddy Bridgewater went ham on the Cardinals, had multiple touchdowns. And listen, the Cardinals just could not keep up. And they ended up getting it out. But on the heels of the easiest stretch, and you can listen to that episode or watch it, it was the last one that I posted. Going to Carolina in week 16 is a good little appetizer for the Cardinals. And then they pivot to 2 games interdivisionally to round out the season. This is going to be, for me, and you've heard through this series, everydayers, if you've heard, most of these or all of these, if this is your first time listen with the Cardinals, Locked On Cardinals, thank you. Maybe make tomorrow your second listen, where I come back to present time and tell everybody to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. I'll discuss that tomorrow. It's going to be one of my more favorite podcasts to do. You've heard throughout this series, it's got to be the cornerback room, it's got to be the pass rush. You're going to know on offense pretty much what you've got, and you do. I mean, the 0-1 jump has been made. James Conner, Trey Benson in the backfield. You got MHJ. Michael Wilson is poised for a big year. Greg Dortch is poised, even though he's got expectations for the first time. Trey McBride, for my money, is a top 5 tight end in the league already. And the offensive line is better than Kyler Murray's had in the NFL. You know what you're going to get. Defensively are all the question marks. And again, these question marks aren't directly correlated to bad or aren't directly correlated to what the hell are the Cardinals doing, which is what we experienced a lot in the past regime. Oh, I wonder what the game plan is for Steve Keim. That's a question mark. It's not that anymore. It's, can Bija Ojulari take that next step? Can Kazir White take that step from good to above average play last year to Pro Bowl level? Can Zaven Collins make something of his career with the Arizona Cardinals in year 5? Can he force the Cardinals to give him a contract next year? It'd be great for both sides if that were the case. Can Darius Robinson come in with his eclectic nature across the defensive line in Missouri, playing inside and playing outside his last year, and be Bija Ojulari's running mate? And most importantly, in my opinion, while you have the as close to set and forget as you could have on this defense with Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson over the top, can Sean Murphy-Bunting, Max Melton, Elijah Jones, Garrett Williams, in no particular order, be the cornerback room the Arizona Cardinals have desperately needed forever? And when I say forever, I mean forever. The Cardinals haven't had a CB1 and CB2 tandem since 2014 with Patrick Peterson and Antonio Cromartie in his 1 year with the Cardinals. People remember Antonio Cromartie for running back the 109-yard touchdown. I think it was off a missed field goal. But he was the best CB2 the Cardinals had alongside Patrick Peterson when Patrick Peterson was in his prime. And it wasn't close since. It hasn't been close. The Cardinals haven't had a CB1. Byron Murphy wasn't. Nobody last year was. A lot of people last year shouldn't have been seeing an NFL field for the amount of snaps that they took. So that's going to be the biggest pressure point for the Cardinals in Week 16 in Carolina. Can the cornerback room be opportunistic when the pass rush gets home? Because you expect the pass rush to get home, especially off the edge. They overpaid guards like something we've never seen before in Carolina. This is a pass rush heavy Week 16 for the Cardinals. Whether it's Kazir White, we'll see what they do with Mac Wilson at that point, if he's going to play more off the edge or if he's going to play, next to Kazir White in the middle of the field. We'll see where Zaven Collins fits in. We'll know at this point if Bija Ojulari is the pass rusher for the future. And stop comparing him to Chandler Jones. You don't compare anybody to Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones was the Pro Bowler when he got traded over here. This is homegrown. We'll see if Darius Robinson is ready with his multiple skill sets across the defensive line. We'll see if Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones in the middle of the defense is going to be able to collapse a pocket, especially against the high-paid guards that now the Carolina Panthers have. So while I worded that awkwardly initially, this is a pass rush game, and you want to see if the cornerback room can be opportunistic, if Bryce Young throws a couple ducks. Bryce Young doesn't have the zip on a ball like other quarterbacks do. He's going to float a couple. And I'm sure he'll get better, and that's not necessarily fair. It was a terrible situation last year with Carolina. He showed little glimpses, and he's going to ever be compared to C.J. Stroud, who shot out of a cannon immediately. But in Week 16, the Arizona Cardinals pass rush is going to be the star, and you hope the offense will just be able to carry the weight, as it will for the majority of this season, and that young defense will start to come into its own later in the season that will allow the Cardinals to be in contention from Weeks 1 all the way through Week 18. Alex Hensey, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. The Rams, familiar foe. Looks a little bit different this year. Can the Cardinals sneak a dub in Week 17 at SoFi Stadium? I'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by BetterHelp. Comparison is the thief of joy. Okay? It is easy to envy other people's lives. It may look like they have it all together on their Instagram or whatever it may be, TikTok, whatever people use nowadays. But in reality, they probably don't. They're humans like us. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. I mean, I've been in, radio for 13 years now, 12, 13 years, radio and podcasting. And if you compare yourself to numbers of other radio stations, other podcasts, whatever it is, instead of just holding true to what you believe is the best content to put out there, what you're hired to do, yeah, it could take away from it. Don't do it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Week 17 and Week 18 are momentum builders or momentum crumblers potentially. Please go to the YouTube channel, so it's Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. If you want to leave a review where you listen to podcasts, cool. I'm just happy that you're here. I don't need the validation necessarily that we've got something good here and that we're building something even better. Last year, it was all about where the Cardinals going to draft. And I kind of poo-pooed, as it were, people who said, no, win as many games as you can, keep going, and the momentum will build. First of all, no, it won't, because that was a throwaway year. So you're looking at, you're playing against, an inanimate object that doesn't grow with momentum because it was a throwaway year. And you had one goal, which was to draft one guy. That was it. So the Philly game was fantastic. And the best situation was the Cardinals get really close and lose games. Like exactly what they did in Week 18. Matt Prater misses 2 field goals. The Cardinals lose. They get Marvin Harrison Jr. If they wouldn't have, we'd be having a very different conversation. They probably would have traded back. You would have watched the Los Angeles Chargers draft Marvin Harrison Jr. directly in front of you, and we would have had a very different conversation. Well, they drafted Joe Alt, so maybe would have passed on Marvin Harrison. Stop it. The Cardinals had the best case scenario last year, and 0 carried over to this season. That will not be this. While the scheduling is, the scheduling is evil for the Cardinals. Well, especially across the NFL where you have 2 divisional games at the end of the year, and which is what it normally is. This is more potent because of exactly who they play and where they play them. The Cardinals haven't had very good luck against San Francisco the last couple seasons. They won some games on the road. They've stolen a couple games at Levi Stadium. But playing at SoFi, which the Cardinals have had okay success, and the 49ers at home where they haven't had the best success as of late. This is a perfect litmus test for the resolve of the Arizona Cardinals, especially. Like, say the Cardinals are in the hunt. Okay, that's what we're going to be looking at this year. The Cardinals going to be in the hunt on that graphic that starts in week 14 or 13. Are the Cardinals going to be one of those teams that are 5-6, 6-5, 7-7, things like that, where it's like, okay, so if the Cardinals go into week 17 and they're, let's do some quick math, 7-8, and they're outside looking in, just hypothetically speaking. 6-9, they'll probably be out of playoff contention. But say they're 7-8, and you have the Rams on the road, and you have San Francisco at home, and you can split one of those and make the playoffs, or you need to win both to make the playoffs, and they do, massive. If they win 1 out of 2, and then they're out of playoff contention in week 8, and whatever it is, as long as the Cardinals don't go 0-2 and they don't get blasted in both games, that's positive momentum. And I know that it's like, well, okay, that's still the green ribbon, appreciation trophy that we had all year last year. Kind of. Yeah. People expecting the Arizona Cardinals to 100% make the playoffs this year, it's bananas. It's insane to me. And that's a little tease for tomorrow's show where I'm going to try and bring everybody back to ground level here. Starting with the Rams in week 17, this is, and the theme that I've kind of portrayed here. It was by accident when I was mapping it out, and then it's like, no, let's hammer this home. It's the cornerbacks. It's the cornerbacks. It's different this year than years past, especially more recent history, the last couple years, bundled together. Because the Cardinals have made a conscious decision to target the cornerback room with young talent and veteran talent alike. Sure, Sean Murphy-Bunting is not an all-pro. That's fine. He had an okay year in Tennessee last year. It was a wonky year for Tennessee last year. Plus, it's a 1-year deal. It's your first year in a defense. They were in transition phase anyways. That's not to say that Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon can't get the most out of SMB. And then you draft Max Melton in the second round. You decide to punt on Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Kamari Lassiter, and you get Max Melton, the hard-hitting, run-stopping corner out of Rutgers, who played against Marvin Harrison Jr. in college. You draft Elijah Jones out of Boston College. You've got Garrett Williams last year, a third-round pick out of Syracuse. And then you got Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson over the top for support. There are expectations for the cornerback room this year. So when I highlight them against Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, even though he's lost 8 steps, but is still a top 15 wide receiver, and Puka Nacua, who's the next Cooper Kupp, and Tyler Higbee, and they've got running backs galore, and they've got Matt Stafford, and they've got Sean McVay. This is something that the Cardinals have struggled with forever against the Rams when they've been good, is cornerback play, because they haven't had any good ones. And the Rams have always had a quarterback, and they've had a handful of good receivers and tight end. Tyler Higbee has ruined this team multiple times over the last handful of seasons. So yes, Aaron Donald is gone. So you could say, well, this is on the offense to really take charge. I could talk about the offense and pick apart, split hairs. This needs to happen. This needs to happen. This needs to happen. If the Cardinals offense isn't incredibly better, if the Cardinals offense isn't putting up fringe 28 points a game, something is severely wrong, and we're going to find out. It's much more about the defense not giving up a 28 burger a game, and where the weak spots that could turn, let me rephrase, where the question marks that could turn into strengths could catapult this team to a level that we didn't expect, that I won't expect in 2024. I keep it real with you here, Locked On Cardinals. I'm not saying, oh, it's playoff time, they're going to make the playoffs because everything looks good. We're going to discuss that tomorrow. This, though, Matthew Stafford, crafty vet, Cooper Kupp, crafty vet, Puka Nacua, the next great one, it looks like, especially in this offense. And they've got multiple running backs. Kyron Williams, who lit the Cardinals up last year. They drafted Blake Corum. They're always going to have a good running back crew and scheme. This is about the corners. This is about not allowing Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua to have 9 catches for 120 yards each and a touchdown each. That's what all this is about. And the pass rush will help that, yes. And if the pass rush doesn't get there, pass rush is a position that hasn't been added to that much. Sure, they've added complementary pieces, Darius Robinson at 26 or 27, but they didn't add that splash pass rusher yet. And they won't, but I'd be shocked if they didn't add some sort of edge rush help with the money that they have still, unless they want to just roll it over to next season. By and large, the majority of this season, especially against good quarterbacks with their good wide receivers, whether they be young or vets, is going to fall on the shoulders of the cornerback room and how quickly they can adjust to the NFL level. Garrett Williams didn't have that much trouble adjusting. Also, there were no expectations, and he was hurt a good portion of the season. Sean Murphy-Bunting is coming off an okay year. The Super Bowl year of 2019, I think, or 2020, whatever it was for Tampa Bay, was a long way away. Let's see if he can hold his weight, maybe be a Cardinal perennially instead of just for a short-term deal. And can Max Melton and Elijah Jones really step into the fast lane and be ready to rock right away? That's what Week 17 is going to be about. What's Week 18 going to be about? A little bit more complicated. As we roll on here, wrap this series up, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by one of our favorites. All of ours are our favorites at the Game Time app. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app usually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, which I'll discuss later, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Now, what does it mean, take the guesswork out? Say you want to go sit in center field of your favorite ballpark, or you want to go travel and sit at center field of a ballpark you've never been before, but there are some, huge hitters that you're going to watch. If you want to see what the vantage point is of the tickets, like where you're going to sit before you buy the tickets, that's what Game Time does for you. It shows you what you're going to be seeing from the seats before you buy them. So again, it takes the guesswork out of buying the tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The 2024 season is going to open the curtains There will be no surprises anymore. There's going to be the trajectories. There's going to be, is Kyler Murray the guy? There's going to be everything and everything and everything and everything with very few question marks. This is the year where we're going to find out what the future of the Arizona Cardinals looks like alongside the present as we witness it existentially throughout the 18-week season. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I just wanted to do it before camp started. Camp starts Monday of next week, the 23rd. I just wanted to do this because I thought it'd be fun. There's very few, little pockets of the NFL season where there's not just consistent content or things that can just be brought up where, it's list season. You react to somebody's list, and there's plenty of listen, I'm just going to get you ready really quickly, and I'll do multiple shows about this most likely before the season starts. The Cardinals and lists this season are not going to be kind. Listen to tomorrow's show. I'm going to bring you back to earth with a sugar-coated nature to kind of prepare you and kind of have, take a beat. Take a beat. Appreciating and bringing in a reality at the same time, I think, is something that people need at this point. Week 18, San Francisco 49ers. How do the Cardinals get a win? Score early and hold the hell on. This is one where I will pivot back to the offense, okay? The 49ers still have all the usual suspects: Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk for now, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Chartavius Ward. They've got their guys, okay? They've got their guys, and they're going to have their guys at least through this season until they inevitably have to pay Brock Purdy or let him walk and be the biggest villains in NFL history. What the Cardinals need to do is outscore the 49ers. And all of the naysayers, people that are, obviously, that's how you win football games, man. The Cardinals offense needs to pull this game by the nether regions and go outscore the 49ers. This can't be, the Cardinals aren't going to win a 17-13 game against the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey is good for at least one touchdown a game. And the Cardinals have enough firepower now to where they can control the clock, bleed the clock, keep that high-powered offense on the sidelines at home week 18 and go get a dub. Now, here's the thing. If this is for a playoff spot for the Cardinals, this will be the first. And I know the Cardinals had a playoff game a couple years ago and they failed miserably. But if there's a playoff spot on the line, if it's win and get in for the Cardinals, and you're not going to need 10 wins in the NFC, I don't think. And the NFC is, listen, it's not as deep of a conference as the AFC. So the couple balls bounce the Cardinals' way, and they're 8-9. Nope. 7-9 going into week 18. 8-9 could get in. We don't know. Say the Cardinals are 8-8 going into week 18. If the Cardinals are playing get in, winning get in week 18, this will be the defining moment of Kyler Murray's career so far, not the playoff game. It won't. Not down the stretch where they could have beat John Wolford and gotten into the playoffs where Kyler Murray was hobbled. Not that. And that's convenient. No. If Kyler Murray leads this team with, his group, obviously, to an 8-8 record on the heels of one of the worst, 2018 and 2023 were not fun to watch. 2023 was much more fun to watch in 2018, and 2022 for that metric. If Kyler Murray can will this team to 8 victories going into week 18 with a playoff berth on the line, this is 1,000% Kyler Murray's moment to show everybody that he's the guy. Even if the 49ers have the 1 seed locked up or the 2 seed locked up or whatever, which they very well could. This is a game, win and get in for the Cardinals. It's kind of like, not exactly, but go with me here. I'm trying to figure out some sort of comparison to the Detroit Lions. When the Lions, last game of the year, a couple years ago, beat the Green Bay Packers and kept them from the playoffs. That's kind of what this would be for the Cardinals, but it would be in a positive way for the team moving forward as opposed to just knocking somebody out of the playoffs, which is something the Cardinals have done a lot before they played spoiler. It's more fun to be on the other side and win and get in than play spoiler and both teams miss the playoffs. It's a dopamine hit that's unnecessary to root for. If the Cardinals get there and they have a chance to make the playoffs with a win in Week 18, and they do, that will be the biggest win in the history of Kyler Murray. And that is the momentum that will be necessary for the Cardinals to thrust themselves into the next level in 2025. The one thing the Cardinals need to avoid to sputter out in the 2024 season is lose convincingly in Week 17 to Week 18, because there's going to be a lot of question marks looking around like, well, what do we do now? As we watch them say that to themselves, what do we do now? What do they do now? That wraps up the series. That was fun. Thanks for hanging out with me on it. Tomorrow, we're going to talk positives and we're going to talk pump the damn brakes. If you've been an everydayer with this show for a long time, you know that I want to speak to you like an adult. It's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies, and there are plenty of outlets you can get to go and hear that, and that's great. And there's so many more rainbows and butterflies than anything else since the beginning of last offseason. But tempering expectations is important, especially right now as camp approaches. I will brave that task tomorrow. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.